Okay, good afternoon everyone. So this is a walkthrough of this file that I just sent. So in this file, we'll be going through views, we'll be going through file export, we'll be going through exploratory data analysis, and finally events. So if you remember in our last class, we were doing events, but it was very eventful. So here we'll be working with a database that is similar to the one we've been working with in class, parks and recreation. So I'm calling it underscore new to be like a different name from the former database that we have. And I made some changes in the database. So just few little changes. So let's start. So here the first thing I have to do is if this database exists, I need to drop it. So and then the next thing is I need to create the database and then set the database as my default database for querying. So the next thing I have to do is I'll create the tables that I'll be needing and then populating the tables. So here I'm going to create employee demographics table. Then here I'll populate the tables with values 12. So now let's check our table and be sure it was correctly. Employee ID, first name, last name, age, gender, and then birth date. Yes, that's right. Okay, I need to comment it out back. So the next table, parks department, I need to create it and also populate it with values. So let's check that the table is created correctly and the values are populated correctly. Yes, parks. Okay. So these are the parks department. Okay. So I need to comment it out back. So the next thing is I need to create the employee salary table. So let me run it and also populate it with values. So now let's check. Yeah, it was correctly. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, I need to comment it out back. So now the next what I want to talk about now, the first topic that we're explaining is views. And what are views? Views are query results that are saved for easy usage. Views allow you to save a query result you would like to use frequently as if it is a table in the database, though it does not take additional storage space. So what a view does is that, let's say for example, let's view the employee demographic table and employee salary table together. So in the employee demographics, we have the employee ID, first name, last name, age, gender, birth date, personal details of each employee. And employee salary, we have the work details of each employee, the employee ID, occupation, salary, and department ID. So now let's say for example, we want to show we want to view all the informations of the employee in one table. But if we create a new table with the whole with the full employee with the full details of the employee, if we create a new table with full details of the employee, it means that we'll be like duplicating data because employee demographics is there, employee salary is there, work information. Then if you now create another table with the same details, it means that we are taking unnecessary storage. We are storing same details in different multiple places. And let's say for example, we are dealing with a database with like millions of rows, millions of records, or millions storing information about millions of people. That would be like on unneeded cost that we will be bearing to like store up all the extra informations. So what a view will do is that the query to create that table, a view is going to store it. So anytime you call the query, the view will first run to create the table and then use the table. So this is what I mean. Let's go through all the three tables we have in the database. Let's view all of them. So we have employee demographics, personal details of the employee, employee salary, work details of the employee, tax department that relate department ID with the name of each department. So let me close it now. Let me close it. Now, so the first thing I need to do is I need to drop view if exists, employee full data, because if I try to create a view that already exists, it's going to bring me error. So I need to first drop it if it exists. So the next from here, create view employee full data. That's the name of the view I'm giving. Employee full data is the name of the view I'm creating as. And then what query result do you want to save in that view? Select all dis from employee salary, employee I started from employee demographics, employee salary and also tax department, and I'm ordering it by the first name followed by the last name. So from here is the select statement that I want to run. Let me run this part first to see what it does. So this is first name, last name, age, gender, birth date, occupation, salary and department name. So I'm now saving this table as a view. So now let me run it from here to save it as a view from here to here. So you see I've created the view, 0 rows affected. To now see the views that we have, you need to refresh your schemas. So you see under packs and recreation new, look at view now. If you scroll it down, you are going to see employee full data. And if you check it, it's just like a table, but it is not under table, it is a view. Because this thing does not take any storage. It does not take any storage on our system, on our laptop. The only thing it does is it stores the query to create that table. So anytime you call it, it is the query that we run to regenerate that table. And anytime you don, if you do not call the view, it's not going to run. So and then so we have a view there, and then to get results, like to see the values in a view, you just call it just like a normal table. Select all from employee full data. Let's run this. Look at it, it's bringing it out just like a normal table. But we should know that this view does not take any storage in our drive or our system. Let's say for example I want to create a new view. I want to create a new view. This is where it's going to get interesting. You know, anytime we use aggregating functions like average, we need to use group by. So let's say for example I'm not using the group by now. I want to stop here. I want to stop here. Let me comment out these two columns. So let me run the query from here to here. I'm creating a view. The name of the view is department average salary, to get average salary per department. So let me run this view. Look at the view runs. You know it was supposed to give me an error, but it runs because why? That query is not yet executed. It is only storing the query. It has not generated the table yet at all. So if there is any error here, I won't know. But it said, let me check the views that I have here. You see, after you see department average salary, look at the columns that I have. I have department name and I have average salary. Now, you know it was supposed to give me error because I did not use group by after using an aggregating function. Now let me now call that view. Let me see what's in that view. Look at it. You see that it is when I called the view that the error is that I'm getting an error. But when I created the view, no error was raised because the only thing a view does is to store the query to generate the table. That's all it does. It does not execute it. It is until when you call that view that it will now execute that query to generate that table, and then you can use it. Now let me okay, so Yeah, what am I doing? Okay, now let me now run it with the correct query now. Oh, sorry. Okay, now let me run it now with the correct query. You see, it runs successfully, drop view and then create view. Now let me now call the view. Let me call it now. You see that it works now perfectly well. So it is only when you call that view, when you call it, you just call it like a normal table, but it is when you call it that the query is going to be executed. A view is not taking a physical storage on your system. It is only storing the query to generate a table. So it is only when you call that view that it will be generated, instead of having same data in multiple places. So and for example now too, like if we have data in multiple places, it means that automatically if we correct here, we have to correct everywhere the data is. But with a view, view is still referencing that same data where they are, but it is bringing them out the way you want them to be. So that's what a view does. Okay. So the next thing we'll be talking about is so at this point you can just pause this video and try to create a simple practice. Let's say for example, create a view which shows the number of people in each type of occupation. If you check the employee salary, we have the employee ID, the occupation of that person, the salary of that person and the department ID, department of that person. So for each occupation, create a view that stores each occupation and the number of people in having that same occupation. So the next thing we want to talk about is file export. For file export is very easy using GUI. It's actually very easy. Let's say for example you run this query now. Let's run a simple query. Now I want to run the employee full data. Let me run the employee full data. So this table now, to save this table, like to save it in a file that I can open outside my SQL workbench, just go under export, just click on this export record set as to an external file. Just click on it and then what format do you want? CSV, XML, JSON, SQL insert statement, spreadsheet. You have two, and the most popular one is to export it as a CSV. Is to export it as a CSV, and then I'm going to export it on my desktop, employee full info.csv, and then save. Now I can view, I can now open it. So if I go to my desktop and then check for employee full info, employee full info, or what's the name? Full employee info. Sorry, I said employee full info. It should be full employee info. So I have something like this. Is this the full employee info? Yeah, I think so. But I need to be sure that's what I saved it as. I need to be sure that's what I saved it as. Okay, okay. So let me try to save it once again to cross check the name. Okay, it's actually full employee info. The name I gave it, the name it is saving it as is full employee info.csv. So that's the data I opened earlier, full employee info. Okay, on desktop and then full employee info. So here we have the first name, the last name, the age, the gender, the birth date, the occupation, the salary, and then the department name. So this is the file that is being outputted. And another way we can output files is to like use query to output our files. Let's say for example, if I want to automate file export. So then like I always want to like export a file maybe like 12 a.m. every morning, 12 like, but it's something I want to automate. I don't want to be the one that will open my SQL every time and then start exporting. Let's say for example at specific interval we need to be exporting files, so we can automate it such that the database it will automatically be exported, and with that we will need to use a query because we don't always want to be the one to be exporting every single time. We want to that the task will be so robotic, so we want to automate it. To now automate it, that's what will now bring us to exporting file using query, the second method that we have. Exporting file using query. And exporting files using query, if you want to export or import a file using a query, there is only one single folder where you can export or import that file according to a constraint that is being set by MySQL. You can only export to that folder or import from that folder. And to know that folder, you need to run this query here that I have, show variables like secure, what we have here. So let me run it. So this is the folder here. C to program data to MySQL server 8.0 to uploads. So I'm going to open the folder here. So to go to C, just go to this PC or local disk C, that's C. So we'll start from there, and then from local disk, the next place we are going to is program data. But as you can see here, you can see that the icon here is not that bright. It is showing that this is an ED folder. Sometimes some files may be hidden. There may be hidden files and hidden folder on your system. To see the hidden files and hidden folders, click on these three dots and then go to options. Under options, go to view and then show hidden files and folders. Click OK. So with that, you'll be able to see the hidden files and folder. If this is Windows 11, so if you are using any other Windows, maybe Windows 10 downwards, so you may need to like check how to show hidden files. So you need to show hidden files to be able to access this program data folder. And then from there, you go to MySQL, and inside MySQL, you go to MySQL server, and then you go to uploads. So this is a file I outputted earlier, like not this current session, with a formal query. So that's why you see it. Any file you output will be here, and you can only import from this folder also. Now let's see an example of how we can output file programmatically. So this is the syntax. Let's say for example we want to output everything in employee full data, that view that we created. We want to export it to a file using query. So this is what we did. We did select all. After select statement, before your from statement, you add this line into out file, the name of the file. Look at the location. I started from that C program data, everything. Let me run this place back. So the value you have here, you can just copy this value, paste it here. But remember that the slash that are here are backward slash. So each of the slash, correct it and change it to forward slash. And where the folder now end, you see you have upload and then slash. You have uploads and then slash. Then you put the name you want to call that file. I'm calling it employeeinfo.csv. So that's how I ended it. So the name of the file should be what should come after this slash, after upload and then slash. the next thing should now be the name of the file you want to put it. This .csv means I want to save it as a CSV file. And remember to always change all this slash to forward slash. And then you say fields terminated by comma. You are using comma to separate each value, enclosed by quotation marks, lines terminated by backward slash n to move to a new line. From employee, we now have our from keyword here now. You can see this line we added. It's telling us how we want to output the file. Now, let me run this place now. Let me show the folder first before I run it. So, this is the folder here. Why is it not showing? Okay. So this is the folder here. There's nothing here. Nothing is being shown. Now let me run the query. Now let me run this query. Did it work? It worked successfully. Now let's view the folder. Look at it. We have employee info.csv. Let's open it. You see that we have the same data, just that this one does not include the heading, but all the data we have there are currently here. So this is how we export data using SQL query. So that's it. So that's everything about data exports. So you can learn more on your own. You can continue from there. The next thing we want to do is exploratory data analysis. EDA, exploratory data analysis, EDA for short. EDA are the analysis that we do when working with new databases or tables in order to study and understand the database, like to understand the data we are presented with. We need to first do some quick analysis to be able to understand the data we are working with or tables. This will aid us in making informed decision while doing further analysis on the database or table. If we don't understand the table we are working with, we are going to be having a very hard time when we are analyzing that table. So the first thing is for you to understand, there are some quick analysis you need to quickly do to understand your data. So some of the most important steps in EDA are explained below. The first thing when you are given a database is to view the tables that are in the database. And to view the tables in the database, you can first go to your schemas and then expand this table option, expand it here, and then click on each table, look at the columns and the data types. Go to the next table, check the columns and the data types, and then check all the table. And you can actually use a query to see all the tables and views at once in your data. So run this query, show tables. If you run it, you are going to see all the tables and views in your database. So we have department average salary, that's a view. Employee demographics, that's a table. Employee full data, that's a view. Employee salary, that's a table. And tax department, that's a table. So we have already seen the tables, and then from the navigation you can also see the tables and also the data types. You can also expand the views also, and then click on each view to see the columns and data types, the columns and then data types. So now after checking the views, the next thing we will have to do is we need to view the first few records in each table to understand how the records are inputted. We need to first see the first few records in each table to understand how they are inputted. So let's start from employee demographics. So we are seeing the first 5 values here, and then let's go to employee salary, and then we change it to employee salary. Let's see that also, the first 5 value, like that, and that's how we do it for all the tables and views until we understand what the information they contain. So after that, we need to check the column names and data type in the navigation pane. I explained that earlier. And then we need to get rows with missing values in a field. So for each table, we will now start, if we want to get the number of missing rows in each column in a table. Let's say for example in the employee salary table now I want to get the number of missing values in the department ID, and then I want to get the rows that are having missing department ID. I'll just run this. So for this person now, this is the employee ID, occupation, salary, but the department is not there. Okay, now let's say for example, I don't want to just view the rows that have missing values. I just want to count the number of rows that have missing values in a column. So you can just use this query and then count number of rows. So here now I'm counting how many rows have missing department ID in the employee salary table. So I have just one. Okay, and then after that, you've check whether there are missing values in any column, the next thing you need to do is to do summary statistics for each column, like for each table and each column in that table. You need to do summary statistic, like get the mean, max, 25th percentile, median, mode, 75th percentile, and things like that to understand the data. Because for example, to understand if there are actually erroneous data in that column, in the table or database we are working with. Because for example, you may be working with a database where a column is supposed to contains percentage, and you know percentage is from 0% to 100%, and then you open a column, you are seeing 500 in percentage column, you know that automatically there is an error there. And then you open a column, you are seeing maybe like 250 or something, where the value is supposed to be 0 and 100. Or you open a column, different things like that. Different things. That's why we use this summary statistic for numeric column to get. And then the next thing is to get the unique values. Like what are the unique values in each column? Let's say for example now a column that is supposed to contain gender, and then we are now seeing male, female, we are seeing SS2 in gender. You know that automatically probably that value is coming from another column. There is a mistake somewhere, there is a mix up somewhere. So you need to check the unique values in categorical columns. Columns that are not numeric now, you need to now check in their unique values to see if they are like erroneous data that we need to correct. And then let's say for example we want to see the unique occupations in the employee salary table. So we use this word distinct to only show us the unique values that we have. Select distinct occupation from employee salary. So let's run that. So we have these are the unique occupations in the employee salary table. So you can do that for every other columns also to cross check. So the next thing we want to do is, now let's say for example we want to see the distinct years in the employee demographics. You know the birth date now. We want to see the distinct years in the employee demographics table, like in the date of birth of people. So and we want to arrange it from the earliest to the latest. So let's run it. So we have from 1962 to 1994. So we know that all the people in this my database they are in the 90s. None of them is Gen Z. I think Gen Z is not, yeah, Gen Z should be 2000 or 2000 and something. Yeah, it should be around 2000 when it starts. So everybody here are what, in the 90s, and the oldest one of them was in 1962, and the youngest one of them was born in 1994. Okay, so that's how we view unique values. And I use a new function here, year. This year is to extract just the year from the birth date. You can use month also, you just extract the month, and you can use day to just extract the day. So the next thing we will now talk about, the last thing, is events. So what do we use events for? Events are used to run a query at a specific time interval. Like for example, every day, every month, 1 month interval, run this query. 2 month interval run dis query, 3 month interval run dis query, or every 10 minutes, every 1 milliseconds, every 10 milliseconds, things like dat. So we use event to automate tasks, and the type of automation it does is what? It runs a query at regular intervals. So before we go further with event, there are some changes we need to make to our database. So here now, let's look at dis scenario. In a company, let's say when an employee is hired, they are usually know the day they are going to get retired. Let's say in our database now, once their retirement day approaches, let's say you are working with an organization and we want to automate it such that once their retirement date approaches, people that are currently working and they've not reached their retirement date, they should be active, like the employment status for them should be active. But people that they've reached their retirement date, they need to retire, their employment status should be to be retired. So the HR department can now start preparing the retirement plans, everything they need to do for a worker that is going to be retired. And we want our database to automatically move the data of that table to a new table that we'll be creating. We will call it to be retired, so that the HR department, what all they need to do is open to be retired table, see the people that okay, this person is about to be retired, and then they will start initializing the process for retiring that person. So now, but in order to show this, we cannot wait, I cannot start it now and then wait for today for the code to run. I'm going to be calling my own retirement time, like I'm going to set a specific time for each employee to retire. So once we get to that retirement time of each employee, the employment status of that employee to automatically change to what? To be retired. And the details of that employee should be moved to a table called to be retired. So that's what I want to do. And I want it such that this query is going to be running every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds. That's what I want to do. So in order to do that, I need to add two columns, the retirement time and employment status, to the employee demographics table. And after that, retirement time is the time an employee is expected to retire, when the HR department will start processing the retirement of that person, while employment status will be active for people that they've not reached their retirement time. I'm using time in this scenario so that I'll be able to show it quickly. And it will be to be retired for those whose retirement time has passed or has reached. And then we will create a new table to be retired, which will contain details of all employees whose retirement time has passed. So now let's see the employee demographics table now. In the employee demographics table, we have employee ID, first name, last name, age, gender, and birth date. And then let's alter the table. Let's alter the table such that the retirement time of, we want to add a new table called retirement time, and then we now add a new column called retirement status. So in this retirement time, I want to make it such that the retirement time for everybody, the default retirement time should be 5 minutes time. Let me look at the time now. This is 1:58. This is 1:58 p.m. This is 1:58 p.m. So I want to make it such that the default value for everybody there will be in 5 minutes time. So let me run this part. And then I also want to create employment status such that the default value, everybody is active by default. So let me run this part also. Everybody is active. Now let's view our employee demographics table once again. So you see our employee demographics table. The retirement time for everybody here is 2:03 and 31. What there is to call what comes after minutes. This is 2:03 and 31 seconds. That's when that's their retirement time, and everybody by default, their employment status is active. Now, okay, now I'm going to create a new table called to be retired to show details of everybody in to collect details of everybody to be retired. Once their retirement time has reached, all their details should be transferred to that table. So we know that that table contains only the details of people that are to be retired. So let me run this part now. I'm creating the table here. So let's view the table. Okay, now let's view the table. So look at the table. We have retirement ID, employee ID, first name, last name, age, gender, birth date, and retirement time. But there's no value here. Everything is null. There's nothing here yet. So, and one more thing we need to do is, our all of them are going to be retired by 2:03 p.m. So note, when creating an event, it is essential to test your query and ensure that no error occurs, because when error occur from the operation of an event, no error will be raised. The query will just not work. That's one thing we need to take note. That was why we were having error in class, that I thought it was the event that was not working, but it is the query inside that is raising error. Any error that is raised by the query in an event will not show any error here. It will never show. You will just see that your event just did not work. That's the only thing. So you must test the query first, ensure that it works before you put it in an event. Okay, now we want to check. I've explained that earlier. So the first thing is we need to ensure that what our query works without giving any error. So this is the query I want to put in my event. So let me run everything here. Look at it, I'm having an error. Why? You are using save update. Anytime you want to update, by default, MySQL does not allow you to update a table. So you need to go and set something that will allow you to update it. And what is that? We need to set save SQL save update to 0 to be able to update, and set it back to 1 so that we don't mistakenly go and update anything later. So let me run this now. Okay, we see that there's no error, right? This 201, not yet their retirement time. You see that this place runs without error. So we can now add this query in an event now, since it does not return any error. So now let's check our employee demographics. Everybody is still there. They are retiring by 2:03 p.m. And then let's check to be retired. So no one yet. So now let's check any event if any event is active. Event scheduler is on. Yeah. One more thing we need to check is event scheduler. We need to set it to on. We need to set it to on, because if it is off, your event will not work. So mine is on here currently. So, and to set it on, you want this line here to set it to on. But mine is already on, so I don't need to show event scheduler anymore. And then let's create our events now. Drop event if exists, blah 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 blah. This 202, not yet their retirement. It's almost their retirement time. So from here to here is where we are creating the event. Let me run it first. So I've created my event. So check to be retired is the name of the event on schedule every 30 seconds. And then to view events that I have now, you just go down and then click show events. So show events will show you the event that is currently on. So this is the name of the event I have checked to be retired. So I've already created it that way. What's time? This is 12:03. So let's run these two queries now and then check. Look at to be retired. Everybody that their retirement time has reached, look at it. It has brought them to be retired. And then let's check the employee demographics. See their employment status. Everything has automatically changed to be retired. Now, our event is already in place. Let's choose a new example to test how our event works. So I'm adding three new employees. I'm adding three new employees. So what's time now? 2:04. 2:04. So 2:04. I'm going to the retirement time of the first person should be 2:06 p.m. 2:06 p.m. And then this second person, the retirement time should be now plus 3 minutes later. That means 3 minutes time after I run the query. And this last person, I want to make his retirement time 2:07. Okay, now let me run this part. Okay, what's time now? The time is 2:05. So let me run this too. So look at what we have. Let's go to employee demographics. You see, everybody is to be retired apart from the last three people that I just added. And if you check to be retired, their details have not been added. It is only those 12 initial people that are already added. And then let me check here. The retirement time is this person is 2:06. Okay. So this is what I'll be doing. I'll continue to like once I'll continue to like let me refresh it once again. You see, that's added two people, Chigozie Dandata and Damilare Okoro. So it has added Chigozie Dandata. Where is it? Chigozie Dandata and then Damilare Okoro has been added. And then it's only Alimo that is still active. So look at it here. 207. So it has added those two. So let's run it again. You know, Alimo's time is later than those two. So let's run it once again. So look at it now. It has not had Alimo yet. So Alimo's time is 2:07, almost 2:08. That's when she should be retired. So she will be the last person to be added. And in the table, he has added Chigozie Dandata and Damilare Okoro. We are waiting for Alimo Balogun time to get to get retired. Once her retirement time reach, the employment status should become to be retired and her details should automatically be transferred to this table. Okay, let's view the two tables once again. So let's start from employee demographics. She's still active. She's still active and her details have not been moved yet. Okay, let's wait, let's wait, let's wait. Let's run this one more. Okay, we are waiting. We are waiting. So let's wait, let's wait, let's wait. Okay, what happens is that the event runs every 30 seconds. So once the time reach, our details may actually not be moved yet until that event runs in the next 30 seconds interval. That's when our details will now be moved. So so let's take note of that also because the event only runs every 30 seconds. If it runs before the event is like run again, it's not going to be counted. It has to be like after the next 30 seconds before the details will now be moved and everything is going to be changed. So let's take note of that also. So you see now Alimo Balogun, look at her employment status to be retired and then let's check to be retired table. You see her details have been added as the last person. So that's the work of an event. It automates tasks But the way its own automation works is that what? It runs a query every regular interval, that every specified interval. For example, every 5 minutes, every day, every month, every year, 1 year interval, 2 years interval, 2 days interval, every week or every Sunday. Or you can even specify the time for it to be like running. And you can even specify the time for it to start and the time for it to stop. If you want it to run with from a specific time and then stop at a specific time. So and that will be the last thing I'll be explaining here. So I sent the query, so you can also try to like work with the query and then try to maybe practice with the query. Now let's say you want to practice with this event, try to create another event that the table will be what? Retired. And what the table is going to be do is that what? The to be retired table are people that are to be retired. So once it is 2 minutes after the retirement time of each person, the person's information should be removed from the to be retired table and then taken to retired table. And also the employment status of that person in employee demographics table should now change from to be retired to retired. Do you get? You are doing three things. So once every 2 minutes, 2 minutes after an employee has the retirement time of an employee has passed, the employment status of that employee in employee demographics table in the employee demographics table, the employment status of that employee, the employment status here, to be retired are people to be retired. So 2 minutes after the retirement time, e should change to retired, no more to be retired. And then in the to be retired table, so 2 minutes after the retirement time, the information of that employee should be removed from this table and then taken, e should be now added, e should now be added to the what? Retired table. And you should use an event to like do that. Use an event to do that. So let's do that as a practice and see how it goes. So and thank you for following my walkthrough. Thank you very much.